So, you think you know Tetris, do you? You're the Grandmaster, are you? The absolute Grandmaster? 2 plus? Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the gloves are coming off today. Or in this case, being put on because I play this with special gloves. I'm Ephraim225. I'm decked out in my Tetris Master t-shirt with all the pieces in the wrong color. Don't worry about that. And I've got a brand new controller for this playthrough of Arika's masterpiece, Tetris the Grandmaster 3, Terror Instinct. There's a Tetris game subtitled Terror Instinct. Can you believe it? This is the follow-up to Tetris the Grandmaster 2, and soon to no longer be the final Tetris the Grandmaster game, because we have confirmed that coming this March is Tetris the Grandmaster 4 at long last. So to celebrate, I'm going to boot up Tetris the Grandmaster 3 for the first time in quite a while to give you a demonstration of the currently fastest Tetris game in existence. But before we get to the main attraction, there are actually a lot of changes in this game that I would like to spend some time talking about, so I'm going to warm up with a game of easy mode. That's right, Tetris the Grandmaster 3 features in easy mode. Seems like a contradiction, right? Well, I say this isn't as easy as it seems. To score in easy mode, it's actually not about scoring lines. You actually want to score line combos. That means you need to score doubles or better on consecutive pieces. So the setup that you'll see me going for here is a very basic scoring setup for easy mode. And not everyone actually likes this mode, as it turns out. But hey, most of you are probably here for the master mode, right? No, what's more interesting, or what you'll find more interesting, is the rule set that I am playing under. You notice that there was the option to play World Rule or Classic Rule, so I'm going to talk about what those mean. I've talked about this a little bit before, but I've stated that I don't really like modern Tetris because it feels very weird to learn compared to Arika's system, which is what I'm going to be playing on when we get to Master Mode. However, Tetris the Grandmaster 3 features the World Rule, which is much closer to modern Tetris, and that was a requirement by the Tetris company. See, by the time Tetris the Grandmaster 3 came out, the Tetris company, which manages the Tetris brand, was basically starting to exert a little bit more control over what you could or could not put into a Tetris game. So they mandated stuff like the design of the logo and the piece colors and even the rotation system, which is not a good thing if you're trying to create a Tetris the Grandmaster game, which uses Sega's rotation system, and you're being required to put in the Tetris company system, basically, the super rotation system, or what have you. Now, to its credit, Tetris the Grandmaster 3 features a nice compromise. You can choose to play either Arika's system or the modern system, and that's fine. I've said in the past that World Rule is definitely not in easy mode because it's not simply easier to learn, it's easier to master, I guess. You know that phrase, easy to learn, hard to master? Well, I say Arika's system is easy to learn and definitely hard to master, but the modern system is hard to learn and easy to master. Nah, maybe that doesn't make sense at all, actually. But the point is, you can play World Rule, you can play Classic Rule, whatever you want. There are more Classic Rule GMs than there were several years ago. I mean, after that very, very amazing AGDQ run back in 2015, the player base has significantly expanded to the point where we just saw Tetris the Grandmaster 1 and 2 get released on Arcade Archives. Unfortunately, no Tetris the Grandmaster 3 ports have been made quite yet, but I would still hold out for those, especially since, again, we are getting a fourth game in March on PC, so this has all been amazing. It really shouldn't have taken that long to get all of this stuff out there if you think about it, because how difficult can it be to port a Tetris game to consoles? Apparently very difficult. There does actually exist a console port of TGM called Tetris the Grandmaster Ace. The thing of it is, not only is it locked to Xbox 360 Japan only, but you can't even play on the actual Arika rotation system that TGM fans actually like, without, like, getting a DLC or something. I'm not even sure about that myself. Oh, boy. Anyway, it is console TGM, it's just not the TGM we actually want. I don't understand the Tetris company sometimes. But hey, that was then, this is now, and now we're gonna go into Master Mode as soon as this credit roll finishes. By the way, you might notice that my initials are at the top of the screen. That's because I logged into my player account. This arcade game has a player account system, which is something that I've seen a couple of times. You have things like that license card for Tekken 5, or the F-Zero license cards or whatever. So, in this game, in order to get the Grandmaster grade, you actually have to get an account because the game is actually going to use your play history in order to determine whether you're worthy of the Grandmaster grade, which is, it's a thing. I'll get into it later, but for now, I need to talk about a couple of fundamental changes to Tetris the Grandmaster 3. You've noticed already that there is a hold system and 3-piece previews. That's more of the Tetris company's influence because they require a hold piece function, which many players think makes the game easier. I think it just allows for more strategy, so I welcome the hold system. And the thing is, even if you have 3-piece previews in a hold box, it's still not going to make the game easier because this is Tetris the Grandmaster 3. In the later stages of the game, it's going to go even faster than TGM2 ever did. So they've given you a lot more tools to work with to make play easier, but they're going to crank up the challenge in order to make up for it. So, what they do in Tetris the Grandmaster 3 is they have this system called the cool system. When I get to the 70th level of each section, it's going to check the time it took to get there, and if I have met the time requirement, then it's going to say cool at the bottom of the screen. Thing is though, if you get a lot of Tetrises, it's also going to tell you you're cool, which is nice of the game to do that, but now I can't tell if I'm getting a cool because of Tetrises or if it's because of the time requirement. And another thing is the actual time requirement for the first section is 50 seconds, but the time requirement for the next section is going to equal the previous section's time from 0 to 70 plus 2 seconds. So in order to get all the cools, which you now need in order to access the invisible credit roll, you have to play very consistently. You can't go too fast in one section, otherwise you're not going to be able to make that time in the next section. And this is apparently not something that everybody likes, but, you know, the top runners deal with it either way. I rather like it myself because whenever you get a cool, you actually increase the speed curve of the game by 100 levels. Even though it says I'm in the 100 section, as far as the speed curve is concerned, this is actually similar to the 200 section from TGM2. And that means that, of course, the better you do, the faster the game is going to get. And the speed levels actually go past 1,000 because they knew players were going to get all of the cools. They have to get all the cools if they want the invisible credit roll, of course. But what this means is that we actually get to the faster parts of the game much sooner than in TGM2, and I actually kind of like that. I don't like these fast gravity sections. I actually prefer playing in instant gravity because there's a lot more certainty in the instant gravity section. So we'll be there after this section finishes out, assuming I get all of the cools. I think I missed one later in the game, which is unfortunate. Spoiler alert, I did not get the invisible credit roll in this run. I thought about trying to actually get it, but I'm so rusty after years of not playing. So I guess we're just going to have to settle for finishing the fading credit roll. Which, when we start to see how fast this game actually gets, I think you'll be satisfied with that. I know I was. This was good enough, I said. I'm not doing any more than this. So, you might have noticed that I have a grade display on the right. In TGM3, they don't show you your grade until the end of your run, so you're just not going to know how well you're doing until the end. Which is an interesting decision. However, there is a program to show you your grade as the game is in progress, so I did that for the viewers. Maybe you count it as cheating, but I count it as actually showing us information that was denied to us. So we're in the instant gravity section now, and I haven't mentioned it yet. There are actually a couple of changes to the rotation system itself. The T block and the I block are now able to kick off of the floor. I've talked about wall kicks in my previous TGM videos. There are now floor kicks, which was done because they didn't want you to have to stack a certain way in order to actually get the eyepiece into the well. And the T block could also get similarly stuck. You originally had to account for that, but they figured the game is going so fast that we probably shouldn't be too demanding of players, right? So, I've actually confirmed that I missed one of the cools because the music in this section is supposed to change if you have all the cools up to this point, and I don't. So, we get to listen to this music, which is actually a good thing in my opinion. This track actually won't play for very long in a Grandmaster level run. So it's nice to hear this music. The music for this game is absolutely amazing. It's done by Shinji Hosoi, who also worked on the previous Tetris the Grandmaster games, and he's also done work for Street Fighter EX and Zero Escape. All wonderful soundtracks that you should probably listen to after you're done with this video. So now we're into the really, really tough part of the game. The music has changed again, which always signals a very big increase in speed. So I'm still able to actually manually lock down the pieces in this section, which you need to be able to do if you want to get a Grandmaster level run. But shortly after this section, I actually stop manually locking the pieces because I just can't go any faster than what the game demands. So I actually just stop manually locking and let the game do it for me, which is fine if you want to be semi-consistent, but if you need to increase your speed a little bit in order to meet a time requirement, for example, then it's going to be difficult to do, because then you would have to manually lock, and if you, at this speed, if you mess up even once, then you could lose control and just end up with a ton of junk pieces floating around, which I think happens in this video, so look out for that. And if something like that happens, then you can forget about getting all of the cools. You do not want to lose your cool in Tetris the Grandmaster, I guess you could say. So if all of that sounds like a nightmare, then brace yourselves. I have yet to describe what the game does at the end of your playthrough. So naturally I mentioned that there is an invisible credit roll. Go figure. That was in TGM2, so it's going to be here as well. You get it by getting all of the cools and having a grade of at least S7, not counting any of the bonus grades from the cools. So, when you get to the invisible credit roll, you now have to actually score Tetrises and a lot of lines in the credit roll, with the pieces being invisible, mind you, in order to access the higher level grades. And even if you get the Grandmaster grade, the game doesn't actually tell you you've gotten it unless you get it in 4 out of 7 playthroughs of the game. So the game tracks your play history, and your 7 most recent games need to have at least 4 GMs on them. Then the game will tell you you are ready for the promotional exam, which just means get another GM right now, and I will have it on your record that you are a Grandmaster. So they don't want you to get a GM by a fluke. They really want you to prove you are worthy of this, which is just insane. It's nuts. This is not a video game, in fact. This is psychological warfare. But yeah, it just makes me wonder what they're going to do for Tetris the Grandmaster 4. We've only really had a couple of side game modes revealed for TGM4, like in prior playtests of it. So who knows what it's going to do? It could do something insane. We don't know. We're going to find out, though. The world might not be ready for it, but I don't think Tetris cares if you're ready or not. Look at what I have to do in this section. Like, this was getting very down to the wire, but luckily I was able to pull off a couple of doubles and save this run. So here comes the credit roll. I can't say I'm very good at the fading roll even after all this time. I'm still basically just like letting the game manually lock the pieces. And the fading roll isn't even that important because at the speed you're going, you're probably going to be clearing the lines before they even have the chance to start disappearing. But you do kind of want to clear lines, because then you'll be able to actually read the credits and see all of the people who were kind enough to grace us with this wonderful game. I joke about Tetris the Grandmaster being psychological torture, but it really is an amazing series. Just the amount of stuff that they challenge players to do, and seeing someone actually do it on like YouTube and stuff, that is like one of the craziest Tetris experiences that I have ever seen, and I'm glad that they are finally seeing the value in actually publishing and releasing this kind of thing. I'm definitely going to check out Tetris the Grandmaster 4 this coming March. So, that does it for Tetris the Grandmaster 3. I believe I have a video of the other game modes for TGM3 if you want to see that, the Sakura mode and stuff. Shirase mode, I can't do that, so please look up videos of Shirase mode if you want to see that. I'm Ephraim225, this has been Tetris the Grandmaster 3, and hope you enjoyed this side video. I'll be getting back to my regular content now, until Tetris the Grandmaster 4 comes out, and we might have to do something about that, won't we? Oh boy, I can't wait for that to happen. Later, everyone!